that works out. I really enjoy that. This is the third contest that Zombie Aesthetic has entered for me, and I always really enjoy the way that he puts things together. So I hope that he continues to enter my contests. Now, Mark, would you please read this next one by the Eon Letters?
We get there. I have to. Not picking it up yet.
I wonder if it didn't take when I did it. You may have to refresh.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, the forest of neon tubes. Fragments of skull with some brain loosely attached, with the skill on one piece of remembering math equations, some drenched with the pink superego, one with the muscle memory of lifting a barbell with the last skull bit of the fear center, as the goo on what the person thought would happen, happened. One bull tusk threw the jaw upwards in a rush stabbing motion, with Earnest Hemmingway throwing up his popcorn, out of shock in the stands. The beauty of the poor matador's brain, neurons firing like a forest of neon tubes illuminating a rainbow, through his genetics with a good gallon of blood left, awakening the living bullfighter's death. The crowd is hushed with a standstill wind, as Ernie stands to run out of the stadium in fear. The skull, half awake with one minatory eye, looks in the writer's direction. End of poem.
Ooh, that was interesting. Well read. Thank you, Mark. And it says in the AN, a poem about Earnest Hemmingway watching a bullfighter get gored. I wonder if that's a real thing that happened. I don't even know. Very interesting storytelling.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Pam.
I was going to say, knowing Ernest Hemmingway and the fact that he was really into stuff like that, had traveled a lot, really big into sports like bullfighting, that there's a really good chance that he did see that.
Yeah, he wrote a novel about that city where the bulls run through the street, and he wrote a novel about that, I think, or I vaguely remember that. Where they closed down the city and they turned the bulls loose, and people chased them through the street, and I'm sure he saw somebody get gored. It's an interesting reference.
It is. That's a really interesting way to go with this prompt, and I'm sure the Eon Letters has probably read what Hemingway wrote and was inspired by it. The way that this is put together is so interesting. Some drenched with pink superego. It's like combining the physicality of it and the like thought process that that physical brain was once capable of and no longer. The fear center that has now become a thing of fear. Very interesting way. And then Ernest Hemingway's throwing up his popcorn in the stands. That's a touch of humor in actually quite a serious right at this, considering it's like a death. It's really interesting. The forest of neon tubes illuminating a rainbow. And as someone who's looked at a lot of brain scans, I have to say that it's a fascinating, thing to see it all illuminated with all the little bits that I should know what they're called and don't even anymore. But to describe it as neon tubes is really cool, and see the neurons firing. It actually is really neat to watch the thoughts spark through you. So to bring that to life in the poem is just really cool. And the one minatory eye, that's really interesting, because the minotaur with the bull head, and here we have the matador becoming almost like the minotaur, taken out by the bull. So cool. This is really creative. Mark, you read it for us wonderfully. What did you think?
It was an amazing description in this. It's so beautifully written, so powerfully and strongly written. You know, like being gored in the first stanza. We're seeing the fragments of skull with some brain loosely attached. It opens with this matador, who's referenced later on. That's what I got. Being gored, and as the person thought would happened, because that's always the fear. One bull, isn't that beautiful language? One bull tusk through the jaw upwards and a rush step. That's this beautiful expression there, like throughout the poem. And then it gets very ironic. This guy who stood up to the bull, and then Earnest Hemmingway is the, eternal tourist watching the spectacle, kind of getting all shocked. The matadors they're getting killed. It's kind of comic. It turns into this horrible but moving comedy of the writer there for a spectacle, just reacting, and the beauty and the tragedy of the matador's death being witnessed by the writer, who throws up and runs out, and the skull, I guess, is a gored matador looking at him accusingly at the end. It was just beautiful description, beautiful tragedy, and kind of a streak of comedy woven through. Just so lovely, right?
That was a really great comment. I'm just picturing, at a lot of these kind of, perhaps, I don't know, the word is maybe not arena, but the place where these things happen, and even kind of Western style restaurants and bars, there's often the heads of animals, like the skulls, mounted on the wall. There will be the cow head, the bull head, the various either taxidermied or more likely I'm picturing the skull, and to have this kind of reverse where it's the human who plays with the bulls, who creates the situation, who now has their skull on display. I don't know, it feels like a statement. Really interesting. Pam, I know you love cows based on all your profile pictures. What were you feeling?
Well, I'll be honest. I've never been a big fan of sports like bullfighting, but that's just me personally. I'm not opposed to hunting, as far as hunting and then using the meat. I've read that they make sure to file down the bull's horns. They give themselves as much advantage as possible. And I'm not saying there's a sense of danger, but anyways, my personal thoughts. Now, the poem itself, absolutely beautiful. I know Mark brought up the point about Hemingway representing the tourists, and I couldn't help but think that Hemingway in this poem was representing more than just himself, was representing a history of how humanity has loved to watch, been attracted to violent sports since ancient Greece, ancient Rome, when man and beast would be pitted against each other. And I have to agree with you, Fabiana, there's definitely a strong social commentary here about how we treat each other, how we treat animals, and what we are easily amused and distracted by. So a wonderfully intelligent right and very well done.
Great comment. Thank you, Pam. And I agree with you. I'm not a fan of bullfighting. And again, I'm okay with like hunting if all the pieces of the animal are going to be used and whatnot. But just for fun, teasing the animals does bother me. So I almost feel like this is like the revenge of the bull. Now,